Kiara loved the Pride Lands. The sun-kissed savanna stretched as far as she could see, dotted with acacia trees that offered shade from the warm African sun. As the future queen, she knew one day she would be responsible for protecting every animal within its borders. But for now, she was still learning, still growing, and sometimes still making mistakes. Kiara was known for her playful spirit and boundless energy. She loved to chase butterflies, pounce on unsuspecting lizards, and explore every nook and cranny of her kingdom. More than anything, though, she longed to prove herself to her father, Simba. She wanted to show him that she was ready to take on the responsibilities that came with being royalty. However, Kiara also had a trusting heart, a trait that could sometimes lead her into trouble. She always wanted to see the best in others, even those who might not deserve it. This naivete, combined with her eagerness to prove herself, made her vulnerable to those who might try to take advantage of her good nature. Unbeknownst to Kiara, danger was lurking just beyond the Pride Land's borders. In the shadowy outlands, a cunning hyena was plotting a scheme that could threaten everything Kiara held dear. This hyena saw Kiara's kindness as a weakness, a flaw that could be exploited to achieve her own selfish goals. She planned to use Kiara's good intentions against her, setting in motion a chain of events that would test Kiara's courage, her wisdom, and her ability to protect her home. The fate of the Pride Lands rested on Kiara's young shoulders, and she didn't even know it yet. Her journey was about to begin. One sunny afternoon, as Kiara practiced her pouncing skills near the border of the Pride Lands, a figure emerged from the tall grasses. It was Chiku, a hyena with sleek fur and eyes that glittered with mischief. Kiara had seen hyenas before, of course, but they usually stayed far away from Pride Rock. This one seemed different, almost desperate. Chiku approached Kiara cautiously, her voice trembling slightly. "Please, Princess Kiara," she began, bowing her head low. "I need your help. My pack, we're in terrible danger." Kiara, always eager to lend a paw, perked up her ears. "Danger? What kind of danger?" Chiku explained that their territory, a dry and desolate area beyond the outlands, was rapidly becoming uninhabitable. The watering holes had dried up, the plants had withered, and the animals they relied on for food had long since migrated. Her pack was starving and thirsty, with nowhere else to go. "We're desperate," Chiku pleaded, her voice cracking with emotion. "We don't want to cause any trouble. We just need a safe place to stay, somewhere with water and food, until we can find a new home." Kiara's heart went out to the hyena. She couldn't imagine what it must be like to watch her home crumble around her, to see her family suffer. She remembered her father's teachings about compassion and helping those in need. I want to help," Kiara said, her voice filled with determination. "But I'll have to talk to my father first. He's the king, and he needs to know about this." Chiku nodded eagerly. "Of course, Princess. I understand. Just please hurry. We don't have much time." She subtly glanced towards the Pride Lands, a sly glint in her eye that Kiara, in her eagerness to help, completely missed. The trap was set, and Kiara was walking right into it. Kiara bounded back to Pride Rock, her paws barely touching the ground. She couldn't wait to tell her father about the hyenas and how they needed their help. She imagined Simba would be proud of her for showing such compassion. She found Simba resting on the promontory overlooking the Pride Lands. "Father," she exclaimed, panting slightly, "I just met a hyena named Chiku, and she told me her pack is in trouble. Their home is dying, and they need a new place to live." Simba listened intently, his expression serious. He knew hyenas were often troublemakers, and he was wary of their motives. "And what did you tell her, Kiara?" he asked calmly. "I told her I would talk to you," Kiara replied, her tail wagging excitedly. "I thought maybe we could let them stay near the Pride Lands, just until they find a new home. It's the right thing to do, isn't it?" Simba sighed. He admired Kiara's kind heart, but he also knew she could be impulsive. "Kiara, you have a good heart, but you must be careful. Hyenas are not always trustworthy. We need to think about the safety of the Pride Lands first." He paused, considering his options. "All right," he said finally. "I will allow Chiku and her pack to relocate to the far side of the Shadowlands. It's not ideal, but it's far enough away from the Pride Lands that they won't pose a threat. You can help them get there, but Bunga and Fuli will go with you to make sure everything is all right. Kiara's face lit up. "Oh, thank you, father," she cried, nuzzling his mane. "You won't regret this. I promise." Simba watched her go, a worried look in his eyes. He hoped he was making the right decision. He trusted Kiara, but he didn't trust the hyenas. He just hoped his daughter's good intentions wouldn't lead to trouble for everyone. The next morning, Kiara, accompanied by Bunga and Fuli, met Chiku at the edge of the Pride Lands. A large pack of hyenas waited anxiously behind her, their ribs showing through their thin fur. Kiara felt a surge of sympathy for them. She was determined to make their journey as comfortable as possible. "Thank you so much for doing this, Princess Kiara," Chiku said, her voice dripping with false gratitude. "You're a true friend to us." Kiara smiled, pleased that she could help. "It's the least we can do," she said. "Just follow us, and we'll lead you to the Shadowlands." As they began their trek, Bunga, ever the observant one, whispered to Kiara, "Are you sure about this, Kiara? They look pretty rough." Fully nodded in agreement. "Yeah, and they keep looking around like they're planning something." Kiara brushed off their concerns. "Don't worry, guys," she said. "They're just scared and hungry. We need to give them a chance." Chiku, overhearing their conversation, chuckled softly. "Don't mind them, Princess," she said. "They're just a little nervous. We're not used to being treated with kindness." Throughout the journey, Chiku made a point of praising Kiara's generosity and compassion. She told stories of how the other animals had shunned them, how they had been forced to scavenge for scraps, and how Kiara was the only one who had shown them any kindness. Kiara, touched by Chiku's words, began to see her as a friend. She believed that the hyenas were truly grateful for her help and that they would never do anything to harm the Pride Lands. She was so focused on doing good that she failed to see the subtle signs of Chiku's deception, the way she subtly steered them off course, the way she exchanged knowing glances with the other hyenas. Kiara's compassion was blinding her to the danger that lay ahead. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Chiku suggested a shortcut. "Princess," she said sweetly, "I know a quicker way to Shadowlands. It's a bit rough, but it'll save us a lot of time." Bunga and Fuli exchanged worried glances. "I don't know, Kiara," Bunga said, scratching his head. "Simba told us to stick to the main path. It's just a little detour," Chiku insisted, her eyes wide and innocent. "Trust me, I know this area like the back of my paw. We'll be there in no time." Kiara, swayed by Chiku's apparent sincerity, nodded. "All right," she said. "Let's try it. It'll be good to get there before dark." The shortcut led them into a narrow, winding canyon, filled with jagged rocks and thorny bushes. The hyenas seemed to navigate the treacherous terrain with ease, while Kiara, Bunga, and Fuli struggled to keep up. "Are you sure this is the right way, Chiku?" Fuli asked, her voice strained. "It doesn't look like anyone's been through here in ages." "Of course it is," Chiku replied, her voice a little too cheerful. "Just a little further, and we'll be there." As they ventured deeper into the canyon, the atmosphere grew increasingly ominous. The air was thick with the smell of decay, and the only sound was the rustling of unseen creatures in the shadows. Bunga and Fuli were becoming increasingly uneasy, but Kiara, still blinded by her trust in Chiku, remained optimistic. She truly believed she was helping these poor, displaced hyenas find a new home. She was building a friendship, she thought, bridging the gap between lions and hyenas. She couldn't have been more wrong. The canyon wasn't a shortcut to the Shadowlands. It was a path to something far more sinister. The canyon walls grew steeper and narrower, until they were barely wide enough for Kiara to squeeze through. Bunga, being smaller, had an easier time, but Fuli, with her long legs, struggled to navigate the tight corners. The hyenas, however, seemed perfectly at home in the claustrophobic passage. Suddenly, the canyon opened up into a hidden valley. But instead of the Shadowlands, Kiara recognized a familiar landmark, Hakuna Matata Falls, a waterfall located deep within the Pride Lands, near Timon and Pumbaa's jungle oasis. "Chiku, where are we?" Kiara asked, her voice filled with confusion. "This isn't the Shadowlands. This is the Pride Lands." Chiku stopped, a wicked grin spreading across her face. "You're right, princess," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "And thanks to your help, my pack is now in the perfect position to take over." Bunga and Fuli gasped, realizing the truth. They had been tricked. "What do you mean?" Kiara asked, her heart pounding in her chest. Chiku laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the valley. "You really thought we were just looking for a new home? We've been planning this for months. Your father has been too busy celebrating peace to notice the storm brewing on the horizon. And you, sweet princess, were the perfect pawn." She gestured to the hyena pack, who were now fanning out across the valley, their eyes gleaming with malicious intent. "We're tired of living in the shadows. We're tired of scavenging for scraps. We want the Pride Lands, and we're going to take them." Kiara stared at Chiku, her mind reeling. She had been so foolish, so trusting. She had let her compassion blind her to the hyena's true nature. And now, because of her mistake, the Pride Lands were in grave danger. The weight of her actions crashed down on her, heavy and suffocating. She had to do something, anything, to stop Chiku and her pack before it was too late. Just as Chiku revealed her wicked scheme, a rustling in the nearby bushes caught their attention. It was Timon and Pumbaa, who had been secretly following Kiara, worried about her safety. They had seen her leave with the hyenas and, knowing Simba's concerns, decided to keep a watchful eye. From their hiding place, Timon and Pumbaa had a clear view of the valley and overheard Chiku's entire confession. Their eyes widened in disbelief as they listened to her gloating about tricking Kiara and her plans to seize the Pride Lands. "Did you hear that, Pumbaa?" Timon whispered, his voice trembling with fear. "They're going to invade." Pumbaa nodded, his usually jovial face grim. "We have to warn Simba." But before they could make a move, Chiku's lieutenant, a burly hyena with a scarred face, spotted them. Well, what we have here," he sneered. "Looks like we have some unwanted guests." Timon and Pumbaa knew they were in trouble. They were no match for the hyenas in a fight. But they couldn't let them escape and warn Simba. They had to buy Kiara some time. "Run, Kiara!" Timon shouted, as he and Pumbaa charged towards the hyenas, creating a diversion. "Get to Pride Rock. Warn your father." Kiara, realizing the danger Timon and Pumbaa were in, hesitated for a moment. But she knew they were right. The Pride Lands were counting on her. "Bunga, Fuli, help Timon and Pumbaa," she commanded. "I'll go warn my father." With a determined roar, Kiara turned and raced towards Pride Rock, her heart pounding with fear and determination. She had made a terrible mistake, but she was determined to fix it. The fate of the Pride Lands rested on her paws, and she wouldn't let them down. Every step she took was fueled by the need to protect her home and make amends for her naivete. The race against time had begun. Kiara sprinted across the savannah, her paws pounding against the dry earth. The image of Chiku's wicked grin haunted her, a constant reminder of her foolishness. She had been so eager to prove herself, so blinded by her desire to help, that she had completely ignored the warning signs. Now, her family, her home, were in danger because of her mistake. As she ran, she replayed the events of the past few hours in her mind. Chiku's sweet words, her pleading eyes, the subtle way she had steered them off course. It all made sense now. She had been so easily manipulated, so eager to believe the best in everyone, that she had failed to see the evil lurking beneath the surface. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she quickly blinked them away. She couldn't afford to be distracted. Every second counted. She had to reach Pride Rock, warn her father, and help protect the Pride Lands from the impending invasion. The sun beat down on her back, but she didn't slow down. She pushed herself harder, fueled by a mix of guilt, fear, and determination. She imagined her father, Simba, standing strong on Pride Rock, ready to defend his kingdom. She imagined her mother, Nala, her wise and supportive mother, offering guidance and strength. She imagined her brother, Kion, and the lion guard, ready to fight alongside her. She couldn't let them down. She had to make amends for her mistake. She had to prove that she was worthy of being the future queen of the Pride Lands. As she neared Pride Rock, she could see the familiar figures of her family standing guard. Relief washed over her, but it was quickly replaced by a renewed sense of urgency. She had to warn them, and she had to warn them now. The hyenas were coming, and they were ready to fight. The fate of the Pride Lands hung in the balance. "Father, Mother," Kiara cried, her voice hoarse as she reached the base of Pride Rock. Simba and Nala turned to see their daughter, her fur disheveled and her eyes wide with panic. Kion and the lion guard stood beside them, their expressions alert. "Kiara, what's wrong?" Simba asked, his voice filled with concern. "It's the hyenas," Kiara gasped, struggling to catch her breath. "Chiku tricked me. She didn't want a new home. She wanted to invade the Pride Lands. They're coming, Father. They're going to attack." Simba's eyes narrowed, his expression hardening. He had suspected something like this all along. "How much time do we have?" he asked. "Not much," Kiara replied. "They're already inside the Pride Lands, near Hakuna Matata Falls." Simba turned to Kion. "Kion, assemble the lion guard. Prepare to defend the Pride Lands. Go now." Kion nodded and, with a mighty roar, summoned the lion guard. They sprang into action, their faces grim and determined. Simba then turned to the other animals gathered on Pride Rock. "Everyone, listen closely," he announced, his voice booming across the savannah. "The hyenas are attacking. We must stand together and defend our home. Protect your families. Protect the Pride Lands." A wave of fear swept through the crowd, but it was quickly replaced by a surge of determination. The animals of the Pride Lands were not going to let the hyenas take their home without a fight. Meanwhile, back in the Hidden Valley, Bunga, Fuli, Timon, and Pumba were putting up a valiant fight against the hyenas. Bunga used his unmatched bravery and surprising strength to knock the hyenas off balance. Fuli used her speed to outmaneuver them, dodging their attacks and delivering swift kicks. Timon and Pumba, despite their small size, used their cunning and teamwork to create chaos and confusion. But they were outnumbered, and the hyenas were relentless. They knew they couldn't hold them off forever. They just had to buy Kiara enough time to warn Simba and prepare the Pride Lands for the coming battle. The fate of their home depended on it. Simba, with his years of experience as king, quickly took charge of the defense. He assigned different groups of animals to strategic locations throughout the Pride Lands. The rhinos, with their powerful horns, formed a defensive line near the border, ready to charge at any hyenas who tried to cross. The elephants, with their immense size, positioned themselves along the riverbanks, creating a natural barrier. The zebras and wildebeest, known for their speed and agility, were tasked with patrolling the open plains, alerting the others to any hyena movements. Nala, ever the wise and supportive queen, organized the younger animals and those who were unable to fight. She led them to a safe haven, a hidden cave deep within the Pride Lands, where they would be protected from the battle. Kion and the lion guard prepared to face the hyenas head-on. Kion, with his powerful roar, the roar of the elders, stood ready to unleash its force upon the enemy. Bunga, Fuli, Besht, and Ono stood beside him, their faces determined and their skills honed. They had faced countless dangers before, and they were ready to face this one too. Kiara, despite her earlier mistake, refused to stand idly by. She knew she had to do everything she could to help protect her home. She approached her father, her eyes filled with determination. "Father, I want to fight," she said. "I know I messed up, but I want to make things right. I know the Pride Lands, I know the terrain. Let me help." Simba looked at his daughter, his heart filled with pride. He saw the remorse in her eyes, but he also saw the courage and determination. He knew he couldn't deny her this chance to redeem herself. "All right, Kiara," he said, "you can fight, but you must be careful. Stay with the lion guard and follow their orders. And most importantly, protect yourself." Kiara nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. She knew this was her chance to prove herself, to show everyone that she was worthy of being the future queen of the Pride Lands. The battle was about to begin, and she was ready to face it head-on. The air crackled with anticipation, the calm before the storm. The attack came swiftly and brutally. Chiku, leading the charge, unleashed her pack upon the Pride Lands. The hyenas, driven by hunger and greed, swarmed across the savannah, their cackling laughter echoing through the air. Despite Simba's preparations, some of the animals were caught off guard. A group of gazelles, grazing peacefully near the watering hole, were startled by the sudden appearance of the hyenas and scattered in panic. A family of meerkats, sunbathing on a rocky outcrop, were forced to flee for their lives. The rhinos, positioned at the border, met the first wave of hyenas with a thunderous charge. Their horns pierced the air, sending the hyenas flying. But the hyenas were too many, and they quickly surrounded the rhinos, nipping at their heels and overwhelming them with their numbers. The elephants, standing guard along the riverbanks, used their trunks to spray water at the hyenas, washing them away. But the hyenas were persistent, and they climbed onto the elephants' backs, biting their ears and causing them to panic. The zebras and wildebeest, patrolling the open plains, used their speed to outrun the hyenas, but they were unable to stop them from reaching the heart of the Pride Lands. The Lion Guard, led by Kiara, engaged the hyenas in a fierce battle near Hakuna Matata Falls. Kiara unleashed the roar of the elders, sending a powerful shockwave that knocked the hyenas off their feet. Bunga used his bravery and agility to take down multiple hyenas at once. Fuli used her speed to outmaneuver the hyenas, striking them with lightning-fast kicks. Besht used his strength to toss the hyenas into the air. And Ono used his keen eyesight to spot the hyenas' movements and warn his teammates. Kiara fought alongside the Lion Guard, her heart pounding with fear and determination. She used her knowledge of the terrain to her advantage, leading the hyenas into traps and ambushes. She had never fought in a battle before, but she was determined to protect her home and make amends for her mistake. The battle raged on, the fate of the Pride Lands hanging in the balance. Kiara fought with a ferocity she never knew she possessed. She remembered every hidden path, every treacherous ravine, every thorny thicket in the Pride Lands. She used this knowledge to her advantage, leading groups of hyenas into carefully planned ambushes. She lured a pack of hyenas into a narrow canyon, where Besht was waiting to unleash a rock slide, burying them under a pile of boulders. She led another group into a thorny thicket, where Fuli used her speed to trap them in a maze of sharp thorns. She even used her own playful pouncing skills to knock the hyenas off balance, giving Bunga the opportunity to deliver a well-aimed sting. But Kiara's bravery wasn't just about fighting. It was also about protecting others. She saw a young zebra foal separated from its mother and surrounded by hyenas. Without hesitation, she charged into the fray, scattering the hyenas and reuniting the foal with its mother. She saw Timon and Pumbaa, still fighting bravely in the hidden valley, being overwhelmed by the hyenas. She called out to Kiara, and together they led a charge to rescue their friends, driving the hyenas back and securing the valley. As she fought, Kiara began to understand the true meaning of being a queen. It wasn't just about ruling and making decisions. It was about protecting her people, about putting their needs before her own, about being brave in the face of danger. She also realized that her mistake with Chiku, while foolish, had actually made her stronger. She had learned a valuable lesson about trusting others, about thinking before acting, and about the importance of protecting her home. She knew that she would never make the same mistake again. She was no longer just a playful cub. She was a brave and determined young lioness, ready to fight for her home and her family. The hyenas may have underestimated her, but they were about to learn just how wrong they were. Kiara was ready to show them what it meant to be the future queen of the Pride Lands. The Lion Guard fought with unmatched courage and skill, their teamwork honed through countless adventures. Kiara, leading the charge, unleashed the roar of the elders again and again, sending shockwaves of energy that scattered the hyenas and cleared a path for his team. He roared with the strength of all the great lions who came before him, a force that resonated through the very ground beneath their paws. Bunga, the bravest of the brave, fearlessly charged into the thick of the battle, using his surprising strength and agility to take down multiple hyenas at once. He bounced and weaved through the chaos, a whirlwind of fur and fury. No hyena was safe from his unpredictable attacks. Fuli, with her incredible speed, darted around the battlefield, striking the hyenas with lightning-fast kicks and rescuing animals in need. She was a blur of motion, a streak of cheetah power that left the hyenas disoriented and defeated. Besht, the strongest and kindest, used his immense size and strength to toss the hyenas into the air, sending them crashing down with a resounding thud. He was a gentle giant, but when it came to protecting his home, he was an unstoppable force. Ono, with his keen eyesight, scanned the battlefield from above, spotting the hyenas' movements and warning his teammates of impending attacks. He was the eyes in the sky, the ever-vigilant guardian who kept the Lion Guard one step ahead of the enemy. Together, the Lion Guard formed an unbreakable force, a united front against the hyena horde. They protected each other, supported each other, and fought with a shared purpose, to defend the Pride Lands and ensure the safety of all its inhabitants. They were more than just a team. They were a family, bound together by loyalty, courage, and a deep love for their home. The hyenas may have been many, but the Lion Guard was stronger, fiercer, and more determined. They were the protectors of the Pride Lands, and they wouldn't let anything stand in their way. Their roar echoed across the savannah, a testament to their strength and their unwavering commitment to their duty. The hyenas had met their match. Simba, standing tall on Pride Rock, watched the battle unfold with a heavy heart. He saw the hyenas swarming across the savannah, their numbers seemingly endless. He saw the animals of the Pride Lands fighting bravely, but he also saw the fear in their eyes. He knew he had to do something to inspire them, to remind them of what they were fighting for. With a mighty roar that echoed across the battlefield, Simba leaped down from Pride Rock and charged into the fray. The animals of the Pride Lands watched in awe as their king, the legendary Simba, joined the fight. He moved with grace and power, his claws sharp, his teeth bared. He fought with the ferocity of a lion protecting his pride, his every move a testament to his strength and his unwavering commitment to his people. For the Pride Lands, Simba roared, his voice booming across the savannah. For our home, for our families. His words resonated with the animals of the Pride Lands, filling them with a renewed sense of courage and determination. They saw their king, their leader, fighting alongside them, and they knew they couldn't give up. They had to stand strong. They had to defend their home. They had to protect each other. The rhinos charged with renewed vigor, their horns piercing the hyenas' ranks. The elephants sprayed water with even greater force, washing the hyenas away. The zebras and wildebeest used their speed to outmaneuver the hyenas, striking them with well-aimed kicks. Even the smaller animals, the meerkats, the badgers, the birds, joined the fight, using their cunning and agility to harass the hyenas and disrupt their attacks. Simba's leadership had inspired the animals of the Pride Lands to rise above their fear and fight for what they believed in. They were no longer just a collection of individuals. They were a united force, a community bound together by loyalty, courage, and a shared love for their home. The hyenas had underestimated them, but they were about to learn that the animals of the Pride Lands would never surrender. They would fight to the very end, and they would defend their home with everything they had. The tide of the battle was beginning to turn. As the tide of the battle began to turn in favor of the Pride Lands, Kiara knew she had to confront Chiku. She couldn't let the hyena's lies and deceit go unpunished. She couldn't let her walk away without facing the consequences of her actions. She tracked Chiku to the edge of the battlefield, where the hyena was rallying her remaining forces. Chiku, Kiara roared, her voice filled with anger and determination. This ends now. Chiku turned to face Kiara, a sneer on her face. Well, well, princess, she said. I see you finally found your courage. But it's too late. We've already won. You haven't won anything, Kiara retorted. Your lies have been exposed, and your invasion has failed. The animals of the Pride Lands are too strong, too united, for you to defeat. Chiku laughed. Don't be so sure, princess. We still have a few tricks up our sleeves. With a snap of her jaws, Chiku signaled her remaining hyenas to attack. But Kiara was ready. She had learned from her mistake, and she wouldn't let Chiku deceive her again. Instead of charging into a direct confrontation, Kiara used her cunning and her knowledge of the terrain to outsmart Chiku. She knew that Chiku was desperate and would be willing to do anything to win. She used this desperation against her, leading her into a carefully planned trap. Kiara led Chiku towards a narrow ravine, where a loose pile of rocks teetered precariously on the edge. Come on, Chiku, Kiara taunted. Are you afraid to fight me face to face? Chiku, blinded by her anger and her desire to defeat Kiara, fell for the trap. She charged towards Kiara, her claws extended, her teeth bared. At the last moment, Kiara leaped aside, avoiding Chiku's attack and sending her tumbling towards the edge of the ravine. Chiku tried to stop herself, but it was too late. She lost her footing and slid down the steep slope, sending the pile of rocks tumbling down with her. The rocks crashed down on Chiku, burying her under a pile of rubble. She was defeated, not by strength, but by cleverness and courage. It's over, Chiku, Kiara said, standing at the edge of the ravine. Your lies have been exposed, and your invasion has failed. The Pride Lands are safe. With Chiku defeated, the remaining hyenas lost their will to fight. They had relied on Chiku's cunning and leadership, and without her, they were disorganized and demoralized. The animals of the Pride Lands, emboldened by their victory and inspired by Simba's leadership, pressed their attack, driving the hyenas back towards the Outlands. The Lion Guard, with Kion leading the charge, used their unique powers and teamwork to ensure that no hyena remained within the Pride Lands. Bunga used his bravery to chase them down, Fully used her speed to cut them off, Best used his strength to knock them off balance, and Ono used his keen eyesight to spot any hyenas trying to hide. Finally, the last of the hyenas were driven back across the border, disappearing into the shadows of the Outlands. The Pride Lands were safe once more. A wave of relief washed over the animals of the Pride Lands. They had faced a great threat, but they had stood strong and defended their home. They had proven that together, they were an unstoppable force. The animals gathered on Pride Rock, their faces tired but triumphant. They cheered for Simba, for Kion and the Lion Guard, and for Kiara, who had shown such bravery and determination. Simba, standing beside Nala, smiled proudly at his daughter. He knew that Kiara had made a mistake, but he also knew that she had learned from it. She had shown him that she was worthy of being the future queen of the Pride Lands. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow across the savannah, the animals of the Pride Lands began to return to their homes, knowing that they were safe and secure. Peace had been restored to the Pride Lands, thanks to the courage, strength, and unity of its inhabitants. But the events of the day had left a lasting impression, a reminder that even the strongest kingdom can be vulnerable, and that it is always important to be vigilant and to trust your instincts. The Pride Lands had learned a valuable lesson, and they would never forget it. The hyenas were gone, but the memory of their attack would serve as a constant reminder to be wary and to protect their home at all costs. In the days that followed the hyena attack, the Pride Lands slowly began to heal. The animals worked together to repair the damage, rebuilding what had been destroyed and tending to the wounded. But more than just the physical landscape had changed. The events of the day had also transformed Kiara. She spent hours reflecting on her mistake, replaying the events in her mind, and trying to understand where she had gone wrong. She realized that her compassion, while a valuable trait, had blinded her to the true nature of Chiku and her pack. She had been so eager to help, so determined to prove herself, that she had ignored the warning signs and allowed herself to be manipulated. She understood now that being a good leader wasn't just about being kind and generous. It was also about being cautious and wise, about thinking before acting, and about trusting her instincts. She had learned that it was important to balance compassion with careful judgment, to be open to helping others, but also to be wary of those who might try to take advantage of her good nature. She also realized the importance of listening to others, especially those who had more experience or a different perspective. Bunga and Fuli had warned her about the hyenas, but she had dismissed their concerns, convinced that she knew best. She understood now that she should have listened to them, that their wisdom and insight could have prevented the tragedy from happening. Kiara vowed to never make the same mistake again. She promised herself that she would always be cautious and wise, that she would always think before acting, and that she would always listen to the advice of others. She knew that being the future queen of the Pride Lands was a great responsibility, and she was determined to be worthy of it. She had learned a valuable lesson, and she would carry it with her for the rest of her life. The hyena attack had been a painful experience, but had also made her stronger, wiser, and more determined to protect her home and her people. She was ready to embrace her destiny and become the queen the Pride Lands deserved. One evening, as the sun set over the Pride Lands, painting the sky in vibrant hues of orange and pink, Simba called Kiara to Pride Rock. He stood on the promontory, overlooking the vast expanse of his kingdom, his expression serious but kind. "Kiara," he said, his voice filled with warmth, "I want to talk to you about what happened with the hyenas." Kiara lowered her head, her heart filled with shame. "I know, Father," she said. "I made a terrible mistake. I put the Pride Lands in danger, and I'm so sorry." Simba placed a paw on her shoulder, lifting her chin so she could meet his gaze. "Kiara," he said, "you did make a mistake, but you also learned from it. You showed great bravery in the face of danger, and you used your knowledge and your cunning to defeat Chiku and protect the Pride Lands. I'm very proud of you." Kiara's eyes widened in surprise. "Really, Father?" she asked. Simba nodded. "Yes," he said. "You have grown so much in the past few days. You are no longer just a playful cub. You are a strong and responsible young lioness, ready to face the challenges that lie ahead." He paused, his gaze softening. "I know that you will make a great queen one day, Kiara," he said. "You have a good heart, and you have learned the importance of balancing compassion with careful judgment. You will lead the Pride Lands with wisdom, courage, and kindness." Kiara's heart swelled with happiness. "Thank you, Father," she said, nuzzling his mane. "I won't let you down." Simba smiled and wrapped his paw around his daughter, drawing her close. "I know you won't," he said. "You are my daughter, and you are destined for great things." As they stood together on Pride Rock, watching the sun set over their kingdom, Kiara felt a sense of peace and